got Chuck and Steve from
Mm-hmm.
the LegaSea Aquarium talking about um, why they came about and what they are all about. I'm super excited to have Steve and Chuck come on, and they're up next. So they're in the green room right now, aren't they?
Yep, they're in the green room right now. So as always, I'll keep pushing it all day. If you like this
Yep.
content, like this, share it, subscribe to my YouTube, Chris's YouTube if you want to donate. If you want to buy merchandise, all of that helps us. We don't have corporate sponsors to sustain us, so your kindness is what allows us to keep doing these things. So, without further ado, we're going to talk to Chuck and Steve about the building of the LegaSea Aquarium. I'm going to add them on now,
Sounds
and
good.
here they are.
What's happening, fellas?
Hey guys.
What's
Thank you
happening?
so not much. Thank you guys for joining us. I couldn't have thought of a better place for you guys to talk about Brian and his legacy and why the LegaSea Aquarium and Reptarium are what they are today. Your processes. We want to hear Brian's story for those that don't know his story, and you two are the best two people to talk about it. And I'm going to take a quick, I know the majority of it already, so I'm going to take a quick hiatus out of here for a couple minutes. I'll be right back, and we'll let you guys start talking about, what this is all about.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having us. Steve, did you want to take it or you want me to have at it?
I mean, where do we start, right? Geez. This is kind of, I mean, I've known Brian since I was like 12 years old. I mean, I guess we'll kind of start there. He's just, he was big into reptiles then, and I was just starting my fish life back then. That's how kind of we met. He was a manager at a fish store, and I was just a fish dork who just walked around and looked at fish all day with him. Basically, Brian went on to be just an absolute megalodon in the reptile world. It's been his dream from the get. From one of the biggest snake breeders I think in the world to a massive live stream, obviously, and a YouTube social media star, you might say, probably one of the first and largest to ever do it. And then we kind of always talked about doing something together as the years went by, just never clicked with it, you might say. And Brian went on to start the Reptarium, which was, I think at that time, honestly, probably the first kind of interactive reptile zoo that I have ever seen or even heard of. That exploded very quickly. Then he expanded that, and that did really well. During that time is when I was just building my brand and became pretty big in the old aquarium industry and life support industry. And we just started chatting. I mean, literally probably 10 years ago, to be honest. Well, we always just wanted to do like a public aquarium or just mesh the two worlds together, aquarium and reptile zoo, something kind of that's never been done before, nothing normal. Something interactive. You're holding snakes, you're feeding reptiles, you're feeding stingrays, you're petting stingrays, you're feeding fish, you're just doing a lot of this stuff that most people don't get to do. And then 3 years ago the opportunity came along and we jumped on it, you might say. Geez, I don't know where, there's so much to say here. At that time, I don't know how to go about saying the rest of this, but right when we started the project, again, this is kind of a lifelong dream for Brian and I. We've been talking about it forever. It was bound to happen regardless. And when Brian and I do something or think of something, it happens. And when we do something, we do it big. And that's kind of the only way we do stuff. We do it all out or nothing. Unfortunately, very shortly into the process, probably less than 6 months into the build of this monster aquarium project, Brian was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So that was a shocker to everybody involved. It's terrible, right? It was kind of just stopped everything. That's when nothing really was more important than Brian at that point, to be honest with you. We weren't even sure we were going to continue. And that's when that conversation kind of happened. Everything stopped, you know, for a few months while we just kind of sat on it and wanted to figure it all out type thing. Do we build it? Do we just stop? All that kind of stuff. And we decided, you know, life is short, clearly, and we wanted to just continue it regardless. You know, at that time, we didn't know how bad it was. You know, we were all hoping and really thinking Brian was going to make it. So we just continued on with the dream. And unfortunately, Brian did not make it, obviously. It was just horrible. It was the worst thing ever for everybody involved. So obviously that's when we called it LegaSea Aquarium. That's where the name came about, to carry on his legacy as a complete legend in just not just life, just one of the nicest guys in the world. I can't tell you how awesome of a person, of a friend he was, and what a legend he was in the reptile world. You know, I mean, I don't think there's a reptile channel that's on now that was not influenced by Brian in some way. There's just no way. He was the guy. He's the GOAT, you know, and still is, in my opinion.
He's the GOAT.
For sure.
He'll always be the GOAT. I mean, you know, watching his last video was the most heart-wrenching thing. I mean, I still watch it, and when I watch it, it still just brings tears to my eyes because of his passion, his love for what he was doing, and, you know, the fact that he accepted the fact that he wasn't going to be here for this to be followed through with, and then the fact that, Chuck, you got in touch with me, and, you know, what did I say right away? I'm like, yes, I'm happy to help with this as much as I can. And then I never knew Chuck for, you know, I'd never met him before, you know, never met Brian. And then all of a sudden now I'm talking to Steve Bashi. I knew who he was, you know, from his famous sumps and his filtration equipment, and to be a part of helping you guys bring Brian's legacy, this whole aquarium and reptarium, to a reality is, I'm happy to be here to help you guys in any way, shape, or form, as I've said it to you before. And I appreciate what you guys have done to just continue, you know, bringing it forward. Just thank you for that.
Right. I think Chuck, you can touch on a little bit of when you reached out to Chris and how that all came about and what happened since.
Yeah, for sure. First, you know, thanks Salem and Chris for having us on and giving us the opportunity to talk about, you know, Brian and Lori and Steve's dream. Yeah, so, you know, into the project, you know, it was right when Brian had passed away, and which was in January of 2024. We were still a good ways out of being complete, you know, with construction. But as you can imagine, with a project that was only supposed to last, you know, a year and a half, and gone on for 3 years now, you know, we had went well over budget. And so we were trying to,
It's still going.
Yeah, still going. You know, we were trying to save money wherever we could. And, you know, we were reaching out to different donors and asking for sponsorships. And, you know, I've been a huge fan of Chris and, you know, what you've done, you know, on the reefing side of things. And very much like Brian. So I was working for a different, you know, public aquarium at the time. And I reached out to Brian, and then he didn't know who I was from anybody. And I said, hey, this is who I am. We'd love to have you come out here to Utah and do a vlog with us. And like, I never imagined I'd hear from the guy. And like the next day he reached out to me. He's like, yeah, sure, absolutely. I'd love to come out and do a shoot with you guys. And, you know, I'm all about what you guys are doing. Right. And that's how me and Brian met. And similar with Chris, right? I reached out to Chris and I said, hey, you don't know me. This is who I am. This is who Brian was. This is what we're doing for, you know, him. And I'd love it if you could help us and be a partner with us. Right. And Chris, like, didn't bat an eye, man. He responded back and he said, absolutely, I'd love to help you guys out however I can, and got him in touch with Steve. And, you know, Chris sent us a shipment of corals just a few weeks ago, which are doing great. So, but yeah, just to touch on Brian, you know, him and Lori, I went out and visited them probably about 6 months prior to me starting with them. And they showed me, you know, what the Reptarium was, what they were all about. And I'd known Brian for a while then. You know, we stayed close. He'd call me all the time. Hey, I got this going on. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? I want to build a legacy, you know, these kind of things. And one of the things that really drew me to Brian and Lori was, you know, just the goodwill that they had. And, you know, one of Brian's sayings was, the only thing that matters is being good to people. right? And you've seen that in all of his vlogs, right? He was very personable. Like you talked to him for 1 minute and he made you feel like family. He made you feel like you were his best friend. And that is the honest to God truth. And man, when Brian and Lori called me in early January and Brian was on the phone and he said, Chuck, this is the end. Like I told him, I'm like, dude, you promised me you'd be here. And it was like the hardest thing I had to do. And I hurried and I got on a plane, flew out to Michigan. You know, I said goodbye. I stayed for a couple of weeks out there to be with the team. So Lori could be with Brian and the family and that sort of thing. And like, it was just like, it was the hardest thing ever.
It was like a real life tragedy. It was probably it was like a movie, you know? Didn't it seem like a movie? Like it was just unbelievable that it was happening to such an amazing person at such a critical time, I think, in his journey. And it was like we were peaking, you know, people, you know, as much as Brian has accomplished in life, you know, like probably more than most people would in 5 lifetimes, really, you know, and that's the truth. In his head, and this is why we got along so well, we were kind of just still getting started. You know, we're never satisfied. And I think we were just peaking and starting a whole new journey with building the legacy. And honestly, we were already talking about building more than one of them, barely starting this one, you know, like that's the kind of thinking. We're nuts, you know, we're insane. We're never satisfied. So we got along so well because we were both very extreme people, you know, and I think that you got to be a little crazy to do what we do for a living. You got to be able to kind of jump off a cliff with your eyes closed and just hope you land on at least 1 foot, you know. And it was that time watching Brian kind of slip away was in slow motion. You know, imagine one of your best friends and just such a genuine guy. I can't express how, just one of the realest guys I've ever known, will ever know. Like you said, when you meet him for like one conversation, you feel like your family, and it was completely genuine. You know, Brian just was no bullshit. You know what I mean? He was the real deal. There's not very few guys like that in this world left. So I remember getting the call as well. You know, obviously I'm here and I was bedside with him on a few of those last days. It was just a nightmare. It was just a nightmare. And it was one of the hardest calls when he called me and said, you know, I'm ready to go. And that's when it really hit me. It was probably it was just the worst, you know. And then you kind of sit back and you're like, okay, you know, this is the reality of it, you know. So you you take it to a different level in your head, like, you know, I just want to make Brian proud. You know what I mean? I really want to finish this for everybody, you know, for him, and build it, design it, and finish it exactly the way it was supposed to be with him, you know, that type of thing, to just make sure that, you know, everything finished on the right foot, and we could just continue showing everybody what Brian was about. You know, he's never going to be forgotten. The dude's a legend. You know, he's the guy people are going to remember. We're going to be all gone. People are going to remember Brian. I assure you that, you know, and just love the dude to death. And I think about him all the time. You know, it's a very, very bittersweet business now. Obviously, it's a double-edged sword, you know. It's such an amazing dream for us. And at the same time, it's always has that tragedy built into it, you know. So we're just trying to make the best of it, you know, type of thing.
Sure.
He's yeah, I can't speak, and he's just the best. Really, I miss him so much, really.
Oh, Chris is muted. He's oh, that's you have to unmute yourself, Chris. I saw Chuck is also muted. I see both their mouths moving, and I'm like, no one's talking. What's happening?
I was waiting for Salem to come on since he unmuted himself. I'm like, okay, he's talking next.
Oh, is that okay? We're taking turns that way. Yeah, I was going to ask. So, how much of it, the LegaSea Aquarium, was actually planned prior to him? Was the the full kind of vision there, or did you have to fill in some of it, or?
No, I mean, for the most part, all the design work was done pretty quickly, I would say. I mean, there's always adjustments in a build this size, but he used to Obviously, Brian designed the entire reptarium area. You know, he's the genius behind the reptiles. I had the freelance of just doing whatever I wanted on the aquarium side. So I designed that side, the layout, and we met a few times at my house, and we would go back and forth and just try to do the layout. And so the majority of it was pretty much, I'd say 95% was completely, as far as the design-wise layout. The tanks were either designed or purchased, or you know, all that stuff was already figured out. You know, I don't know. We were probably less than halfway through, but maybe halfway through when he did pass. But the layout was there, everything was there, the foundation was there. We just had to kind of finish it, you know, that type of thing.
So one of the questions that I had was, you know, it's not cheap to put together something like this. I mean, you know, I feel that, you know, with Brian's love and passion for all of this, that there would be a huge outreaching or with people willing to help to get this and keep this going forward. Do you guys have anything that is accessible for those that would love to help by donating towards the completion of this amazing project you guys are working on? And if so, what is it, so we can, you know, get as many of these people watching this you know, what we're doing out there, so that you can get more help, you know, starting from today, from what we're doing.
I'll let Chuck jump on that.
Yeah. I'll share. We've got a GoFundMe that's been open for a while. You know, Brian and Lori started that when Brian was first diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and looks like, you know, it raised about $260,000, and that's still open to where people can donate to that.
Awesome.
But other ways that you know, guests can donate is, obviously they can come visit us at LegaSea Aquarium. They can become members. Just the general admission helps out as well. But we also have things that they can do online. If they want to buy like a sponsorship plaque, we have different levels to where they can buy like a bronze, silver, or gold. I think it starts at $100 and it goes up to $500. And you get to choose what animal you want on the plaque, and you can put your name, your family's name, your business name, and it goes up above the admission counter. There's also opportunities if if a business wants to sponsor, you know, certain exhibits, they can get in touch with our marketing coordinator, and you know, we can help them get something set up that way. But I'll send the GoFundMe in the chat here in just a minute, and you know, you guys can share that. That'd be great. Thank you.
Definitely. I mean, anything that can be there to help you guys continue doing what you've already gotten so deep into. You know, I would just hate to see, you know, you continue, and then funds start running low. And there's so many people out there that I know that would support this, that would want to help, that would want to make sure that this was finished all the way to the end. And any way that we can help you guys, you know, get this word out there so that you guys can continue to get the help that is necessary for you to keep Brian's legacy a full reality. You know, that's why we had you on here.
I mean, what we're doing right now is helping, just talking about it.
Exactly.
And I think that's always going to be the biggest thing. Just talk about it, spread the word. Like Chuck said, come visit, you know, experience it. Because I think when you experience it, it's going to change you. It's a very, very different facility with very different mindset. I don't think, you know, I've been to dozens and dozens of public aquariums and zoos. I'm sure all you guys have, and everybody has. You know, there's literally nothing like this. This is one of the reasons why it took so long. Another reason why it was so expensive is, you know, 80% of it is completely custom or never been done before.
Nice.
So there's some experimenting. You know, that's just what Brian and I always did. We did stuff that just wasn't done before, because that's the way it works. That's what works. You know, that's what we like. So that took a little longer. You know, there's some mistakes made, and mistakes on this level are very expensive.
Yes.
Expensive. You know, when you make a mistake, it costs time, and I think time is so valuable. You know.
Yes.
Just talking about it, spreading the word like this, like what we're doing right now. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for having us on. It's a big deal for everybody, and just talk about it. Come visit it, and I think that's going to be one of the biggest helps for everybody involved.
So could
Yeah,
you? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, luckily, Brian's wife, Lori, she's a beast. She's an animal, and man, she took what her and Brian and Steve put together, and without Lori, I don't know if LegaSea would have ever got open. But luckily, we opened April, I believe it was April 21st of this year, and so far it's been an overwhelming success. I remember grand opening day, was fantastic, seeing the line of people that almost literally we almost had to close down Van Dyke Avenue because the line of people was so big, right?
That's awesome.
But yeah, I put the GoFundMe in the chat. I also put our website in the chat, and then I'm going to throw our YouTube channel in the chat as well if you guys want to share that. Lori does a daily blog. I think it's 4 days a week now. She puts out a vlog that just kind of keeps people informed of what's happening, what's going on, and we call them Reptile Army. That's Brian's following, right? And they follow and look forward to those videos every single day.
And I think putting a link into Brian's even his last video, and that way people can discover him if they have never discovered him before, to be able to actually see who he was. I mean, because you can tell who he was by the first time you listen to the guy speak. I mean, if you can't get through it that this guy had nothing but passion and love for what he did, I don't know how else to explain passion and love. I mean, the guy was, it just goes through every, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps talking about the guy, and I didn't even know him. And I wish I would have had a chance to know him. And I wish we could have got his wife to come on too if she was up for that. That would have been really cool. Didn't even think about that until now. What's that?
Maybe next time.
Maybe next time, for sure. For sure.
The word passion describes Brian. So, I mean, I'm telling you, I want people to watch some of the older videos. I want the real Brian, you know what I mean? The older videos from years ago. And you fall in love with the dude. You might not even like reptiles, but you're going to watch Brian. He had that pull, he had the charisma. Like, he loved the camera, and he was amazing in front of the camera. That was his thing. Like, that was his thing. Crushed it. And watch the last video too, but the last video is a hard one to watch, man.
It is a hard one.
That's I really can't get through it. You're gonna make sure you have issues, because it's as real as it gets. You're telling you,
it is.
We were literally, I mean, it was just like a real life movie, man. It was like, I mean, I woke up every day sometimes and just thinking, man, is this shit real? You know what I mean? It was just unbelievable in so many good and bad ways all at the same time. Like, you're building your lifetime dream at the same time as such an amazing human being is going away, So it was the best and worst time possible for at least myself. I can only speak for myself, and I'm sure Brian's family and everybody else. So, obviously, nothing is going to bring him back. I wish there was no LegaSea Aquarium if Brian was still here, right? I'll kick the aquarium to the curb if we can just have him back, because he's the man. I just miss him so much, and then it tells you life is short. So, stop thinking about doing stuff and just get your ass out. That's it. Make a difference. Don't be, be the guy talking. You can be the person talking about people, or you can be, the people are talking about.
Exactly.
That's what Brian is, just the man.
Yeah. So I think that the size of this aquarium is very, very large, and I'm thinking about the process of getting it to be presentable as a reef aquarium, and what is going to be entailed with that. And I know it's patience is the biggest thing, but when it comes to the fact that ACI, we sent out 2 very large boxes of corals. Most of it was aquaculture, some of it was not. what actual impact did that have on this visual experience for people coming and look at that at the aquarium? There's not much there, is it?
Well, I'll tell you, to be, you know, like what you sent out was, you know, a shit ton of coral, right? You said it would fill most home aquariums top to bottom, right? It was an insane amount. It would be like a store order, right?
Yep.
And it's kind of just peanuts inside that.
You know, I tried hard to find you some of the biggest, healthiest pieces that we had to offer you. And honestly, I wish you'd been ready for these corals 6 months ago, because there would have been a lot more aquaculture that was overgrown that had been sent to you guys. But that just wasn't happening this go around. But believe me,
we wish that too. We wish we were.
Well, I can tell you this, you know, Chuck was talking to me, you know, back, was that a year ago that you got in touch with me? Something about a year ago.
Yeah. It was right after Brian passed away. So probably about a year ago. Yeah.
You know, and I had so many things in mind to send you guys. And then I had this devastating thing happen, and I don't want to talk about it here. It's your time, but I wish that it would have, you know, wish is what I say. I wished it could have been done sooner, but I know that that's just not reality. And gosh, I wish some of my pieces that I lost during our issue would be in the LegaSea Aquarium in a good place. But bottom line, as you guys need more and more, you know, you can reach to me, and I will do everything I can. I'm going to try to get some other people that I know that are really good coral farmers that need to remove a lot of overgrowth that is just taking up space, and seeing if I can get some other very nice, reputable places that aquaculture to send you guys some overgrown pieces, so that you're not getting these little booger frags to stick in a massive aquarium. You know, I think
I don't want to downplay what you said. What Chris sent was a ton, very expensive coral, but the tank is 18 feet long. It's tall and 4 feet wide. I basically designed the reef to be like, I wanted basically the largest reef, the longest panel we could get without seams, and I needed it to be glass so we don't scratch it. So when I reached out to design the aquarium, I wanted the longest possible reef because I just love that look. So we can get like schools of Antheus, schools of tangs, and really, and you know, with the bigger the tank, we can get away with like regal angelfish and a lot of cool fish you can't put in a smaller tank to really give people the most, you know, wow
experience.
Yeah, for a real reef tank, you're going to see like real angelfish and 35, you know, Antheus and 60 chromis and, you know, dozens of tangs swimming naturally, you know, not just cramped into this little cube, you know. So Chris sent a ton, but this is a monster tank. You know, to really fill it up, you know, big pieces look small in this tank. That's just frags look like, you know what I mean, in this tank. But we want both because, you know, we both know aquaculture, you know, some of the frags are very rare, very specific species that we would like to display and grow ourselves and then kick back to the community as it grows. As we're going to set up another tank behind the reef for overgrowth ourselves and specific species and kick them back to you, Chris, and you do your thing with them. You know, Chris, you know, obviously he doesn't want to talk about he went through a tragedy himself and still came through with us. So I just commend Chris and ACI. You know, there's not many people out there that, you know, not just talk the game, but they walk it, you know, so we really appreciate that donation, man. It's big.
No problem. I mean, happy to. And again, I'm going to try and I got a handful of people in mind. We're going to get you some more stuff. When you tell me you're ready, I'll start getting together a group of people and we'll get you even more sizable pieces that don't look like, you know, you need a microscope to see them through the glass.
It's cool, man. We appreciate you. I mean, you know, we're both linked into this world. You're linked into that world. So if we both come together, everything's possible. You know, it's all it is. It's just people trying and doing it, you know?
Yep.
It sounds like Chris kind of sent you some frags based on the size of the tank.
Don't worry, this tank.
Frags in the world. were huge. You know, they were like, you know,
Yeah.
dinner plate size, but they look like average size. Again, 18. You know, just think about it.
You just reminded me of Joe Waiula in his 20,000-gallon tank he's got at the
Right.
Long Island Aquarium. And he had it post one time, I don't know, probably 10 years ago. He says, who gives the biggest frags? And he brings up a piece of Fimbrophilia ancora, and it's like this monster meandering wall of coral. He's like, this is the frags I'm giving away. And I'm like, that wouldn't even fit in most people's tanks.
Then, you know, because his mother pieces are 4 foot long.
Tell you what, that's all powered by Kalkwasser. That tank is insane.
I mean, we're going to be was just talking about that earlier, actually, to the team, is that we're not ready now, but a few more weeks we'll install a Kalkwasser unit and dose unit. And it's a little bit safer right now than a calcium reactor. I think, without getting too nerdy about it, I think we both know why. One mistake with a calcium reactor in the wrong hands, you might say you're wiping out the whole tank. You know what I mean? And
same with Kalkwasser. I mean, Kalkwasser is even more dangerous than a calcium reactor if it's not being done correctly. And,
yeah, I think there's less factors, and Kalkwasser to me is badass. You know, I have always loved that, and obviously it's been big time in Europe forever. We talked about this, Chris, a few weeks ago. To me, it's almost like the metal halide conversation, right?
Yes,
but we know
almost forgotten.
right.
Well, they've got the volume. If you overdose, it's gonna be a lot. You got to have like a bathtub to overdose on calc.
Well, that's what I mean. You got a 2,000-gallon plus aquarium. Realistically, about 2,500 gallons, because the filter system I built is monster. 2 huge sumps, you know, that are 70% filled with water at all times. So yeah, if we have the right size Kalkwasser unit, even a mistake won't be a tragedy, you know, that type of thing. But eventually we're going to need both, right? Because that's a lot of coral, and it's going to grow like.
You guys don't have the kind of money, a public aquarium type system like this. You don't have the kind of money to dose a 3-part solution or whatnot. It's a money pit, and it's just going to suck your cash out of your company. You need to do it as efficiently as possible. And that's why, you know, I didn't reinvent the wheel when I started preaching about Kalkwasser 5 years ago. All I did was try to make the money that we had go the farthest we could have it. And I was doing all these new school methods, and I used to use Kalkwasser 25 years ago, and I got away from it and realized that it's the biggest money pit I ever got involved with when you're dealing with 18,000 gallons of water. And I put calcium reactors back on, and then my pH was suppressed even more. It just, bottom line, for big systems like you have there at the LegaSea, Kalkwasser and a calcium reactor, again, you don't need the calcium reactor now. But down the road, as it matures, you're not going to be able to keep up with the alkalinity demand just from Kalkwasser. You're going to have a calcium reactor hooked up to it. And we're talking to somebody here in a couple of hours about this new Aqua about controlling a calcium reactor by testing your alkalinity on an hourly basis. I'm really excited about to talk about this, because I'm using an Apex now or a Hydros, and I don't need all that fancy stuff available on it. And having one unit to test my alkalinity to control my calcium reactor is just simplicity, you know. And that's what I'm looking for, is the simplest, cheapest way, but the correct way to maintain these beautiful animals in captivity. And we've got it dialed in pretty good now. And I know you guys are going to get it dialed in, and you can always reach out if you need any help, questions. I know, Chuck, you've been messaging me here and there. You can message me anytime, buddy. I'm happy to help you out. We want to make sure everybody's corals are thriving, not just surviving.
Yeah, that's the key. The key is simplicity too. Like, I love all the crazy electronic stuff. I love all that. I'm a bells and whistles guy. Obviously, look at the sumps we make. We love all the crazy. So, like, the more complex something is, the more chances something goes wrong, or, you know, it's harder to troubleshoot and fix it. So, you know, the old KISS method, right? Keep it simple, stupid type thing. But at the same time, you have to do what's best. You do what's best, and then you find the simplest way to make that happen. Exactly. And then you school people on it. You know what I mean? Obviously, you know, we have a team there that is constantly learning. They're learning every day. Trust me, there's a lot going on there. And the reef tank is the most complex system there, even though we have a 30,000 gallon shark tank and with ridiculous filter systems and 6-inch pipes, stuff you've never seen. You can stick your head inside the pipe. But the reef tank, honestly, is the hardest one, because sometimes if you breathe wrong or the temperature this or just one, you can do a lot of damage really quickly, so, and they're the most sensitive animals most of the time. And so it's keep it simple for sure. It's already complex enough. Why make it worse, But yeah, me and Chris, we align up. We're old school and new school at the same time.
And we just talked for the first time. That was that like 2 months, 3 months ago, 4 months ago.
Yeah, we've met at like trade shows, but we never really, blah blah blah, talked or anything, because the trade show you just kind of running the whole time.
Yep.
But yeah, we talked. Our first conversation was a long conversation, like we know each other forever. Cool.
What did I say to you about your subs?
You said they were garbage. No, I'm
No, we were talking about. Do you remember we were talking about the simplicity? And then I was like, and how in the hell do you have all this complexity in your subs? And you're like, people want it, so I make it. And if that's what they want, then that's what I'm going to do. And I get that, and I respect that, because there's so many ways to reef. Simplicity is the way I like to look at it. If somebody wants the complicated side of it, Steve's your man to go build you one of the most elaborate, crazy sumps you can possibly think of, and you need a PhD to run it.
But I always wanted to design stuff for every level of hobby.
Yeah.
Like you can get my stuff, and it can be complicated if you want it to be complicated, and you could use it that way for the most advanced stuff in every probe in the world and every stupid device they come out with. And if you're just old school, simple, you just got a really hot rod looking sump, and you can use it as well. But a lot of times people will buy stuff and they'll mature as hobbyists, and my equipment will kind of grow with you. So you can simplify it in the beginning, and then once you become more advanced, you don't have to get another sump. It's already kind of built in, all the bells and whistles and kitchen sinks and all that fun stuff, man.
So, Chuck, do you have a Bashea underneath yours?
Not yet. I've been trying to get one.
I don't think it's in his budget. That's the problem.
True.
A raise, he'll be all right.
Well, so go ahead.
I was gonna say, I've seen some pretty avant-garde Bashi sumps. Like, makes a big block engine look like a joke, man. There's I've seen some crazy ones online. So hearing you say you like the KISS method, yeah, it makes sense now. It's the customers what they want, but that's like 2 ships passing in a night from my perception. So I guess when you were building the LegaSea, what was your design philosophy going in? Like, what do you actually have on that 20-foot tank? What did you put on there?
Oh, that one. A very particular tank. So that one's a little bit different. It was such a long tank. I ended up designing 2 sumps that are plumbed together. So I think I have around 14 feet of actual sump. So it's basically no different than my signature series, just obviously on steroids. That I did everything. I did dual everything. That whole 2 skimmers, 2 bioreactors. I think 6 return pumps. We had redundancy. So if something needs to be repaired or shuts down, it doesn't affect the system, that type of thing. The difference with this one is we built in from the front of the display. One of the different things about LegaSea as well is I wanted people to also experience the life support systems that take care of these animals. I didn't want them just to be behind the scenes. They all look like crap. A bunch of Rubbermaid tubs and all the shit you see in some of these aquariums to save a few bucks. We wanted the people to see the engines of the aquariums. We wanted to see everything that goes into really keeping these animals alive in captivity. So we built in a bunch of basic clear portholes in the front of the display, where you look through the porthole and you can see the filter system operate.
That's awesome.
So it looks really badass. It turned out really, really cool. I'm really happy with it. So knowing that, I really went just balls to the wall on the design. It looks ridiculous. It's white and black. I went on the tuxedo look of it, but everything is hard plumb with matching white pipe. All the plumbing is looks like art. You know, all the fittings, just everything's really, really nice on that, and it gives people an insight. But I wanted to show off the filter. I mean, obviously that's what I do at the same time, but I wanted to give people a whole different experience at the. We've done that with a few of the systems. The Shark system has a monster 8-foot by 5-foot glass panel, which you look through it and you see this ginormous skimmer, ginormous bioreactor, 3,000 gallon sump. We spray painted, we painted the pipe red and black. You know, we made it, it's just insane. We wanted to really do something different. And the reef tank really kind of takes the cake over there with showing the live animals, but also showing the engine that runs it.
And added water volume. I have in such a large system. I mean, you know, that's going to be a very key component of the longevity of the system, because as it matures, you know, we all know how hard it is for keeping as close to balance as we can get. The higher the water volume, the much easier it is to maintain that balance. And I think that it's going to be very awesome to watch this aquarium mature into what it's going to be. And you know, Brian's going to be sitting up there and above and looking down with a big fat smile on his face going, you guys did it. Thank you very much. You know, and I think it's awesome that you guys are just continuing doing this.
Yeah, it's awesome. We won't stop. This is what we're doing. You know, we're going to make Brian proud. And I know he's watching. You know, like I said, every decision I still make the decisions today thinking about what Brian and I would talk about, what we did talk about, and just to make sure that comes to fruition. No cutting corners, none of that stuff. You know, whatever the dream was the dream, and I wanted to make sure that, you know, we follow it through, and that's what we're doing, man. I can't. You guys got to come check it out yourself. I think you're gonna.
I'm definitely coming. I got to get up there to see it. Just it's tough when you have Coral Farm to get away. And when I want to get away, usually it's like, okay, the family's like, we're going to go somewhere. And it's like, okay, we don't want to go anywhere where dad's going to work. But it wouldn't be like work. It'd be a different thing. But, you know, our family's from up north, so maybe we can make our way up and drive all the way out there one day, because we're in PA is where my mom and dad and Amanda's family's from. We got to figure it out. We got to make it happen. And of course, I want Chuck to be there. I want Steve to be there, and, you know, love it for Salem to be there too. But getting us all coordinated at the same time, that's probably not going to be an easy task.
Not easy.
Yeah. Yeah. I would just encourage people to come see us, right? We're 45 minutes outside of Detroit. You know, we're an interactive aquarium, right? And it goes even beyond that. It's 30,000 square feet, about 10,000 square feet are reptiles and mammals, right? You can go in and interact with a sloth, a two-toed sloth. You can interact with our binturong, which is our bear cat, right? It's kind of a mix between a raccoon and a monkey. It's like you've never seen it before. It smells like popcorn, right? We've got a capybara, you know, that you can interact with. And then you head over to the saltwater side of things. You know, you've got a 20,000 gallon stingray exhibit that eventually guests will be able to get in and snorkel in. We've got the Dr. Fish exhibit. We've got a large freshwater predator exhibit, you know, with arowana, alligator gar. You know, people can feed those and interact with those, and
the archer,
the archer fish, like Steve mentioned, you can hold crickets on a tong, and they spit the crickets out of your tongs, right? It's just you know, we believe in education through interaction, right? And something that Brian and Lori really made clear to me is it's not all about the money, you know, when it comes to LegaSea, right? It's about the guest experience. We want every guest to leave thinking, wow, this place is amazing, right? And Brian would always refer to Disney, right? Him and Lori are big Disney fans. And he would always tell me, he says, Chuck, you know, when you go to Disney and you spend $2,000, but you leave and you're like in the best mood and you don't even feel like you spent any money. He's like, that's how we want LegaSea to be, right? That's how we want it to be there. We want our guests just to have an amazing experience. And man, there were so many times I'd have a conversation with Steve or Lori or Brian. I'd be like, hey, we can do it this way cheaper, right? And they'd be like, no, it's not about doing it cheaper, right? We want to do what's right. We want to do what's best. And like, this is an $8 million aquarium, and that doesn't even take into the fact the money that Steve put into it with his sumps and his life support. And so you're probably closer to $9 million, right? It's an
Wow.
insane aquarium, you guys. And like, I just encourage people to come check it out and experience it. And like I said, we're 45 minutes outside of Detroit. But it's just an amazing experience, you guys. It's like nowhere you've ever been before. And it's just going to continue to grow and get better.
Right.
So,
Yeah. We're
so
going to bring more animals. Obviously, it's just going to get better the next few months. We both know, cycling aquariums, you're not just going to put 1,000 fish in a tank and open up an aquarium. It takes a long time type of thing. So, and like Chuck said, I think when people come there, I think when you go there and then when you leave, you're going to be a totally different person. Most people don't get to hold 14-foot snakes, and
yeah,
it's not normal. And you're to dive with stingrays in December in Michigan. That just doesn't happen. I think you're gonna walk away a different person. It's gonna be an experience you just won't forget. Brian was all about the experience. It's just all about the experience. And I think what we put together is just a grand slam.
it sounds like it. I mean, that's the thing that I think it makes me sad to hear about a lot of, and I'm not putting down any public aquarium, but it seems to me like it's all about, how can we do this the cheapest? And this is exactly the opposite. And that's what really makes me excited about it, because it should be the model for all public aquariums at that point. Everybody should be able to interact with these animals, with the staff, and, no expenses spared, because it's about the animals and about the experience. It's not about how much profit you're going to make off of it. It's about just making sure it is going and people are enjoying it and the word of mouth is out there. I hope it becomes the most popular public aquarium type reptarium, in the country in the very near future. It sounds like it might be.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's going to get replicated. Oh, like anything else, every great idea just gets ripped off. But
Well, you got to lead somewhere, right?
Right. We're pretty proud to be the first and the best, and that's not going to change.
Yeah, I feel like the interaction is so important for kids too, like that's like really how they can learn and become passionate about this stuff. Because there's a difference between being behind a pane of glass and snorkeling, or holding a cricket and having archer fish target practice. Like, that's pretty wicked. Like, that's definitely would be great for, like, to get kids involved and stuff, school tours and all that. I'm sure local schools would love that.
Right. 100%. Yeah. But it's again, it's just going to get better and better. And the animals do come first. That's just always, the animals come first, and then obviously,
100%.
and then, the clientele, the customers experience is right there at number 2.
Yeah, we're in the process of being ZAA accredited, right? So we filed our application for that. We're in the process of submitting all the documents for that. Next will be the inspection, but I know there's a lot of those people that ask those questions. So we will be in accredited facilities, which is awesome. We also offer, birthday parties. We also offer private tours. We also offer zoo to use, right? So field trips, or people who want to have birthday parties at their home. We have a team that will take animals, to the school or to your home, do a birthday party, do a field trip at the school, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's just an experience that you can't get anywhere else. And in the dead of winter, like, there's no place colder than Michigan that I've ever been. I got frostbite when I was bringing in the shark stand, but man, it's cold up there in January. But it's just like Steve said, where else can you snorkel with stingrays in the dead of winter, right? In Michigan, you can't. It's just insane.
It is insane. And again, we're doing it. I mean, the ticket pricing is almost ridiculous. It's so cheap. Other public aquariums have so much less to offer and charge twice as much. We wanted to make sure everybody could afford this, because we want everybody to walk in the door and really experience it, and every kid, everybody. So that was a big thing from the get-go. Let's just make sure this is very affordable. The money thing is easy. We know they're going to come. It's not a big deal. We just want everybody to be able to experience this more than once, and our ticket pricing and everything we sell is so much under what it should be. And I think that's with today's economy and what everything costs, you don't see that too often. You don't. So, and we're going to stick to it.
Well, repeat customers. I mean, if it's that good and the price is right and people can afford to go once a month to just be able to get and experience it all, you got people coming on a monthly basis, that's huge. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah,
I,
we got people that bought memberships 2 years before we opened, and
nice.
we have some people that will literally come every day. We
That's
have
awesome.
people that show up every day to the LegaSea, and
Right.
it's just it's amazing to see those people and the support that they give us, right? So yeah, it's amazing.
Very
So where are
cool.
you at in terms of stocking the reef tanks? You mentioned, you've got Chris's frags in there, and you've
Right.
got plans for a lot of fish. Where are you at right now?
We're pretty, still infantry. I have a school of atheists in there that are killing it. I did a school of blue tangs, which is we did that. A few blennies, a few gobies, some smaller fish. Then we have the little breadcrumbs that Chris sent. No, but so
Just in scraps. Yeah, just whatever he had laying around.
yeah. But I'm messing with you, Chris. But
I know, and it's all good.
so
I was worried myself.
So we're still pretty early, it's a good amount of fish in there, but honestly, I think stocking level for fish, I'm going to stock the shit out of that tank. Like I want this tank to be, museum quality, magazine quality. We want this to be that tank. So, which is why the filter system is so ridiculous. You plan ahead, you design and you build the life support system, not for what it is today, for what you want it to be when it's done. That's how I think about stuff. But fish wise, we're probably at about only 20% capacity. Coral wise, we got a long
10, 5.
It's a big
4.
Yeah.
So you mentioned chromis.
Coral grows, right?
Exactly. You mentioned chromis and 60, and I'm thinking to myself, only 60? I got
Yeah, like,
200 and
400,
1,000
man.
gallons. And I'm looking at that going, I think we should add another 200 chromis to this tank. Because chromis, especially after the tank matures and you got all these beautiful acros growing, and that's going to be so awesome to see them just suck back into the acroporas and having, 300, 400, 500 chromis in that tank will look badass. It's one of my favorite fish.
There's nothing I like more than a school of fish. That's my favorite. Anything, a school of anything to me, I don't care what it is, it's the ultimate look. So I wanted to have several schools of fish, so I didn't want to overwhelm with one type of school. So tangs, chromis, obviously, even like Bangai cardinals and all this, shit like that you don't see too many. Imagine 30 Bangai cardinals all hovering in one area or something like that. We know they reproduce in captivity pretty easy after they mature.
Yes.
Get diademas. That'd be cool. Get like the symbiosis going on in the tank. That'd be pretty cool. You could probably do that.
Really killer clowns, that type of stuff. Firefish and weird shit like that. And again, 2 or 3 kinds of tangs. Maybe 2 or 3 kinds of anthias. Anthia is probably one of my favorite reef fish because they're just beautiful, man. I love them. So we wanted schools of a lot of fish. But you're right. Even 100 chromis. It's going to look like 30, dude. And
Yeah.
You need a school of convict tangs.
Right.
Okay. Oh.
That is my favorite tang. They have the most picks per minute of any other species of tang out there. And they will just keep your tank clean and they just look so badass in the school. But the problem is I've tried to make schools of convict tangs with 20 or 30 of them. You end up with 1 in like 3 years. That's it. So that's the problem with convict tangs.
Yeah, tangs can get so aggressive, man, which sucks. Cause I mean, I want 6 black tangs in there. I want to do stuff that you don't see too often, that kind of stuff. And we both know, like, like for example, like a clown tang, or how about a school of powder blue tangs? When do you see it in captivity? Almost never. You know what I mean? And Phillies tangs, and they can get really aggressive, man. And try catching a fish out of a tank that big, full of coral. That's not easy.
you got to be careful with tangs too, because if you go off your normal feeding regimen whatsoever, and you've had model citizens of tangs in your system, and say you have an employee that's not doing, I don't anticipate this to happen, but if you have somebody that's not doing their job the way you wanted it to be done, and things change just slightly,
Right.
all of a sudden that tang's like, that piece of coral looks yummy. Takes a bite out of it, and he goes, "Guess what? I really like the taste of coral, and I'm going to eat the hell out of the tank." And believe me, I ran into that problem. I had a mortgage board of like a misfit school of tangs. I got rid of them all because I couldn't figure out who was doing what and when. And we just said, okay, it's time for all new fish, and we got rid of them all. And now we'll get new fish, and hopefully we don't have that problem. But I'm staying away from most of the tangs, to be honest with you.
It's tricky. It's also like you have to know exactly when to put those fish in. You know, you don't put, there's certain fish you don't put in first. We know why, all territory and all that kind of stuff. But the most aggressive fish you want to put in last, you know, obviously after a lot of coral has established itself, has become strong, and can take a couple of
fish,
pick it, you know. So you establish the coral, you stay with the safe fish early, and then you start, then the devil horns kick on and you start experimenting. You got to roll the dice, you know. That's all. That's how cool stuff happens. You roll the dice.
Man, you've got, talking about this is rolling the dice. You've got those bioreactors, and you're gonna have a lot of coral sucking up nutrients. You need some dirty fish. You're gonna be dosing nitrates all day. Get like a pair of like fat Japanese dragon morays or something.
Right. You know, that's what I mean. You like, people
that
don't
would be cool.
Like, you have to overstock and overfeed these reef tanks as they mature, or you literally will starve. You'll starve them to death. It's like, people don't understand. Like, you have to feed 3 times a day sometimes. You know, you have to, you know, add nitrates and do this, and it's the opposite of what most people think. You know, the reef tank as it matures. You know, and we both know this tank is so big, and the amount of coral growing at one time that needs to be fed is kind of astronomical. You know,
yeah,
fish poop is the best food for corals.
Right, 100%. You know, so the more coral, the more fish, the more food. So everything, like we said, it's a delicate balance, man. It's a big tank. You know, our small tanks, as Chuck knows, you know, he's got the tank behind him. You know, it's Chuck, you know, if you breathe wrong sometimes, you're going to notice it in your coral, man. You'll get a coral that will pitch out. It's beautiful one day, looks like shit 2 days later. You're trying to figure out what you did. It's tough. It's a lot of troubleshooting. Sometimes you never figure it out. Sometimes corals just do what they do. But on a bigger scale, you know, you lose more at once, but you do have, you know, the more water, the better. Obviously, I wish it was a 10,000 gallon reef, because it makes it easier to, you know, believe it or not, you know, but it's big enough to become dangerous.
5 hours into this, guys. Thank you for being on at 4 o'clock with us. I wish we had more time to talk about this, but we got like a minute to go before we got to have our next guest come on. I just want you guys to recap, you know, the LegaSea Aquarium, where people can find it. I know we shared it all in the comments, and we're going to continue to, you know, share that throughout. But we just want to thank you guys for coming on and talking about Brian and what he did.
Well, thank you guys. We appreciate the opportunity, appreciate spreading the word. We'll be on anytime you guys want us in the future. I'll let Chuck finish it off with where he can find us and go from there.
Yeah, LegaSeaAquarium.com. Like I said, you can find us 45 minutes outside of Detroit, 45550 Van Dyke Avenue in Utica, Michigan. Come check it out, LegaSea Aquarium. It's an amazing place, man. An experience like you'll never experience anywhere else.
Awesome.
Well, awesome, guys. Thank you both for coming on. I've put all the links back in the bio. I just went and I pinned the GoFundMe. So if you guys want to support Brian's vision here, be sure to support them. Go donate. Go see the LegaSea Aquarium. And as always, like, see, this seems like a really good thing that not a lot of people are doing, especially in the public aquarium space. So be sure to give them some love, follow them on all the socials, and share their website, please.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys for coming on.
Thanks, you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So our